The Chiefs and Eagles will face off in Super Bowl 59 down in New Orleans. And in this video, I'm going to show some offensive and defensive stats to give you guys a better idea of how these two teams match up on paper. You guys are listening to the KC Sports Report. My name is Michael Darcy. Hit that like button on this video and subscribe to this channel for more of the best daily Chiefs content on YouTube. With that being said, let's go ahead and jump right into the numbers. These are all coming from FanDuel. Now, I do want to say that these stats right here, like overall offense and pass offense and rush offense, these are all calculated using FanDuel's research. So I'm not putting too much into these stats right here, but these stats down here, like points per game, total yards per game, passing yards per game, rushing yards per game, and turnover rate, I think those are the most important. And so why don't we compare those two? So the Chiefs are averaging 22.6 points per game, which is 15th best in the NFL. Total yards per game, they're averaging 327.6, which is 16th best. Passing yards per game, they're averaging 222 yards, I guess 222.4. Rushing yards per game, they're averaging 105.3, which is 22nd in the NFL, which is by far their worst offensive metric. And then their turnover rate is 8.3%, which is 9th best in the NFL. So those stats right there don't look great on paper, but luckily, these games aren't played on paper. But with that being said, let's go ahead and show Philly's offensive rankings. They're averaging 27.2 points per game, which is 7th best in the NFL, which is just insane. Total yards per game, they're averaging 367.2, which is 8th best in the NFL. Passing yards per game is 187.9, which is 29th best in the NFL, which means that Jalen Hurts is not a great thrower of the football. Now, rushing yards per game, they're averaging 179.3 rushing yards, which is second best in the NFL, which is absolutely ridiculous, but it just shows you how good Saquon Barkley is. And the Eagles' turnover rate is 6.6%, which is 4th best in the NFL. So if we just look at these offensive stats on paper, it sucks to say, but the Eagles' offense is better, according to points per game, total yards per game, the turnover rate, and rushing yards per game. Now, I do think the Chiefs have the leg up in the passing game, but I think that we're going to see Saquon probably get the bulk of that offense on Super Bowl Sunday. But with that being said, let's go ahead and get into the defensive statistics. Again, going to points allowed per game, total yards allowed per game, passing yards allowed per game, rushing yards allowed per game, and then forced turnover rate. The Chiefs are allowing 19.2 points per game, which is 4th best in the NFL. They're allowing 320.6 yards of total offense, which is 9th best in the NFL. 218.8 passing yards, and 101.8 rushing yards, which is 8th best in the NFL, with a forced turnover rate of 11.6, which is 13th best in the NFL. So really the Chiefs' only weakness on defense is their passing yards allowed per game, which is 218.8, which is 18 best in the NFL. So I guess you can throw on that defense, but at the same time, they didn't have Jalen Watson for the bulk of this season, and Jalen Hurts can't really throw the football. So even though the Chiefs' biggest defensive weakness is their secondary, according to passing yards allowed per game, I don't think the Eagles can capitalize on that. And with that being said, going over to the Eagles' defensive statistics, points per game allowed is 17.8, which is 2nd best in the NFL. Total yards allowed is 278.4, which is the best in the NFL. Now, passing yards allowed is also the best in the NFL with 174.2. Rushing yards allowed per game is 104.2, which is the 10th best. And the forced turnover rate is 14.1%, which is 5th best in the NFL. So also, if we just look at the metrics, points allowed per game, totally allowed yards per game, passing yards and rushing yards and turnover rate, their defense might be better. But with that being said, the Chiefs' defense does not operate on paper. They go out there and play the football game, And that's why going into that Bills game, we heard how good that Buffalo offense was. We heard how impossible it was to stop Josh Allen. And the Chiefs went in there and made the 4 or 5 necessary plays to win this game. I will say the Eagles are a very good team. Offensively, they're balanced. Defensively, they've got a fantastic unit. They can get to the quarterback. They've got a good secondary. But just showing those numbers, the Chiefs are close. And if the Chiefs are close, you got to give them the advantage because they have Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid and Travis Kelce, who really are the difference makers in a game like this. I understand that the Eagles are a fantastic team. They're representing the NFC, but I think the AFC holds all the best teams. And while I do think the Chiefs need to go out there and play their best football, the Buffalo Bills, I think, are a better team than the Eagles, and you just beat them. So if you can go out there and play your style of game, I understand the Eagles' passing defense is great. Patrick Mahomes historically has picked apart great passing defenses. He did that in the first Super Bowl against the Niners. This Eagles team that they faced off against a couple years ago, they were great defensively, and at the end of the day, it didn't matter. And so I do think that while those stats are interesting to look at, you can't put much stock into them because the Chiefs were kind of playing dead for the majority of the season. They just wanted to get to the playoffs fully healthy. They did that. They got the bye week, and now they're in the Super Bowl, and it feels like they're waking up and playing their best football at the perfect time. But before we go any further, guys, I want to give a shout out to the sponsor of this video, Mozy. This video is sponsored by my friends over at Mozy. Mozy is a wearable and weatherproof thermal wrap, which is guaranteed to keep you warmer than a normal stadium blanket. If you're going to any outside tailgates or parties or any event, you gotta stay warm. And the best way to do that is by getting yourself a Mozy. And right now, if you click the link in my description, you will get 30% off your entire order by using code KCSR at checkout. And fellas, if you want to get your girlfriend or wife the best present ever, go get her a Mozy. It keeps her warm. You'll be able to do more activities outside. And I cannot tell you how many times that Mozy has come in the clutch by keeping the girlfriend warm. So definitely go check out the link in my description. Get 30% off your order by using code KCSR. And once again, thank you to Mozy for sponsoring this video. Special thanks to Mozy for sponsoring this video. Now getting back into the stats, I think that we can acknowledge that Philadelphia has a good defense on paper, but how much is that going to matter? Because the Chiefs have historically played very well offensively against some of the best defenses in the league. Again, Patrick Mahomes has faced off against a stacked Niners defense. This Eagles defense from a couple years ago, they weren't bad either. And so yes, this team is better, but I do think it is worth noting that the greater the challenge, the greater play we see from Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce and Chris Jones, and the better coaching we see from Andy Reid and Steve Spagnuolo. And so, yes, I understand that those stats might be frightening to the Chiefs fans that are nervous going into this game, but I feel a lot of confidence because we were told all week, all of last week, that we couldn't beat Buffalo. Buffalo is better than us. Josh Allen was going to come into Kansas City and just, kick us around. It didn't happen. The Chiefs won. They're in this game. They've got the most playoff experience out of any team in the playoffs. I mean, Trent McDuffie has never lost a playoff game in his career. So this entire, young core has been in these moments, has thrived in these moments, and that's why I'm so confident that going into this game, those defensive stats, those offensive stats from the Eagles, it's not going to mean much because at the end of the day, it's going to come down to quarterback play and coaching and which defense can make the timely plays. And we know the Chiefs have the better quarterback, coach, and that defense is going to make those timely plays. So Chiefs Kingdom, let me know what you guys think down in the comments section below about those stats. Do you like them? Do you hate them? Do you agree with them? I think it's very interesting, but again, we'll see what happens on Super Bowl Sunday. So guys, that's all I have for this video. Hit that like button and subscribe to this channel for more of the best daily Chiefs coverage. Until next time, guys, thank you for watching this video. And as always, go Chiefs.